Well, hello and welcome to Underwater Answers number 4. And the first thing I'm going to say is thank you for all the great feedback you've given us from Underwater Answers 3. That Zig edition where it blew everybody's minds, it certainly opened our eyes and it looks like it's opened yours as well. So brilliant to see the feedback. Please do keep the comments coming. Let us know firstly that you're watching it, and secondly, some of the questions that you're asking are brilliant because we can look at those at some stage in the future. What we all find from this is that we go out with a bit of an idea in our mind on what we would like to know, and we come back with almost as many questions as we get answers. But throughout the course of the year, we'll keep going and keep finding stuff out. So this is Underwater Answers 4. The subject today is something that catches people out all the time, and that subject is weed. Now, weed can be your best friend or it can be your biggest nightmare. It causes so many people so many problems. And what we're going to do today is we're going to get in the water, have a look at how it behaves, how we should behave around it, and how best to catch fish when there is weed in and around your peg. So without further ado, the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my kit on, take you guys out there into the pond and show you what it's like from below the surface. Dipping down into the incredibly rich Wraysbury South lake, I'm instantly greeted by the green stuff, and there's loads of it. The weed I'm swimming through at the moment is a mixture of Canadian pondweed and milfoil, standing about 6 foot off the bottom in about 12 foot of water. It's pretty thick, and I often speak to anglers who are concerned about fishing weedy areas or weedy lakes, but one thing I always tell them is the unquestionable fact that carp love it, as this little clear spot proves. That was undoubtedly a feeding spot, and as I swim about I come to another even larger clearing. This is where fish have obviously fed. If you're in a weedy area and you can find a clear spot like this, bites shouldn't be too far away. Swimming a little further out and I came across a raised area comprising of sand and gravel. There's thick weed surrounding it, but the only weed on top of it was a coarse type of silkweed. This weed is common on gravel bars, but it doesn't root down and can be cleaned off with regular baiting. However, if you do find this type of weed on a spot, care must still be taken to ensure you're presented correctly. Like the clear area in the weed, this is another prime spot, and without the aid of diving kit or a boat would have to be found by detailed work with a marker rod, an essential piece of kit for anyone fishing a weedy lake. On my way back to the bank I collected a selection of the weed so we could have a look at it in more detail out of the water. Well, having had a bit of a swim, I bought you some presents back just so you can see what it's like down there. And we'll look at this one first. This is Canadian pondweed, very, very distinctive. When you look at the ends of it, it's got loops. The leaves just curl over on themselves. And when you crush it together like this, you can hear it crackle. So it's quite a tough weed, grows very, very, very thick. And it can be anything from 6 inches to 6, 8, even 10 feet deep. And to be honest, fishing in and around this will cause you problems. Line lay for a start, but also it's a carp trapper. In that if they get their heads into this, sometimes they can really get themselves stuck. But we'll look at that a little bit later on. But this is one of the most common gravel pit weeds, loves clear water, it's a brilliant oxygenator, and as much as we don't like it, carp absolutely love it. Let's look at this now. And this is a strange little critter. I don't actually know what this is called. It's a little bit like grass clippings really, and it doesn't anchor itself down. This sort of rolls around the bottom. It's like a filamentous algae that's got really, really thick. So where you see that big candy floss weed, almost as if it's maturing and dying, this is what it goes back to. But it tends to sit on clear areas. I see it a lot of the time on gravel bars, sitting on the top of gravel bars. And one of the interesting things with it is that it moves. So if a fish moves over the top, the water that's displaced basically rolls this. And I've seen it before now where there's been bait on a spot and fish have literally just got in, and the following day have got there and it's been like turfed, where they've rolled this stuff up and just thrown it out to the end of the patch as they get into the food as well. So they do shift it out of the way. It can be a problem because if it rolls over the top of your rig, it can snag you up, and that might cause you a problem with hook holes. But there's not a lot you can do to avoid it because, like I say, it's mobile, it's transient, it shifts around the spot. But it's always useful to know that it's down there, and once again we've got a way that you can find out whether or not there's this stuff around. Now this is another common one, completely different family to Canadian pondweed, but it's similar, and I think this is called milfoil or arrowfoot. And it's very, very brittle. The stem isn't as thick, and it grows a lot of the time in individual strands up in the water. So you'll get clumps of it. It can live in the same sort of area as Canadian because it likes the same conditions, but because that is so dominant, what it tends to do is choke this stuff out. But it loves crystal clear water, good and healthy. And I've brought a longer piece in with me now, just so you can see approximately how long it is. So that's how far it roots in. And if I was to lift this up at the other end, I've just snapped the top of it there, unfortunately. But you can see there that that's a good, well, I'm 6 foot. So there's a foot of me down there. That's probably 4 to 5 foot. And actually, when it's the other way around, this way around, it spreads out. So you see a tiny little strand, but the reality is when it's underwater, it spreads out quite a lot. And this will catch bait in it, you know, just light particles, seeds, bits and bobs, hemp, that will catch in that on the way down. And the fish will quite happily feed in that. It's not too difficult to present in, and it's not too difficult to pull fish through either. So it isn't as much of a problem as Canadian, but sometimes you don't know it's there. Because it is so thin and sparse, you don't know it's there. Right, so as you've seen from my quick swim around the pond, there is lots and lots of different things out there. There's big, thick areas of weed, big hedges of Canadian, small areas of lower lying weed, sand patches, gravel patches, humps, all in a very, very close proximity to each other. So it's easy for me, but of course I've got the benefit of an air tank, some fins, a face mask, and quite a few years of diving experience. The big question is, how can we find out that information from on the bank without the benefit of going underwater? Well, the key is having a lead around. Now, a marker float is great for feeling more or less what's on the bottom and also finding the depth, but you can find out more about what's on the deck by pulling a lead through it. But even that has its limitations. I've found 2 spots out there, one with very thick weed, another one with a reasonable amount of weed, but something I think we can present over. And I'm going to run a lead through it and see what it feels like. And then I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to put one of these through. Now, this is a grappler, and believe me guys, this will give you no end of information about what's out there. If it's sandy, it'll pull back nicely. If it's weed, it'll catch some and bring it back, and it's a great, great help. So let's have a flick out first and foremost, see what's out there, and see if what I feel through the rod matches what I've seen with my eyes. I'm going to put on the clip, feel it down, it's going down, and then I'm just not really feeling anything. There was a little bit of a donk. I say a little bit of a donk, it wasn't really a donk, it was a landing. But clearly that's going to be weed. So pull back. And it's just, I can feel that just coming through stuff. I don't know how thick the stuff is, but it's definitely coming through something. Now it's just bounced over and it's gone onto a nice gravel patch. So clearly that's come through something into something that's quite nice. Now it's thickened back up again. So I can feel there's a difference, but I don't know exactly what it is out there. So if I now put the grappler on and put it in the same spot, hopefully I'll find out exactly what's on the deck. Loop-to-loop method is always good. If you haven't seen that, then you need to have a look at it. Basically, overhand loop with an overhand tag tail on it, and you can take your lead off as quickly as that. And then put the grappler on. So this is how this system works, really, really good. You've basically got one big overhand loop, and then you've got a small overhand loop as a tail. Simply put it on, and then fire that through, pull it back, and it'll sit there. And see the tail? When you want to take it off, just pull that tail, it'll open it back up again. Great for impact spods, great for leads, great for all sorts, really, really good. So back out, and now to the same spot, into the weed. Hit the clip, drop it down, feel it down. Feels similar, landed with a bit of a landing, but immediately I can feel something different down there. It feels a lot thicker. Dragging it back, actually it's come onto that gravel again quite quickly there. That's nice. So now what we'll do is we'll lift up, because I found what I needed to find out there. And let's see if it's brought anything in. Definitely picked up some weed there, and it's clear as we bring it in, that patch has got a fair amount of weed on it. And if we just have a look at this, it's important to have a look at the weed. That's brown. And just look at it, it's quite old weed that. It feels very, very hard. And one way to age Canadian pondweed is just look how tight the leaves are together. And if it's very tight like that, then it's been there a long, long time. That's very firm, hard stuff. This is younger, fresh growth, lighter stuff. Broken off, but it's not going to be that deep. You know, don't look at that and think it's only that deep. It's going to be a lot deeper than that. I'd say that's going to be 2-3 foot deep, even possibly more than that. So, having put the lead out, we felt something, but we didn't know what it was. Having put the grappler out, we can see exactly what it is, and then we can make a conscious decision about what rig we're going to put over the top of it, or indeed if we fish that spot at all. Right, this one's going to go out to the heavy weed area now, and it is pretty thick down there. So feeling it down again, that should be, yeah, that definitely felt like a bump on the way down. And straight away, look, we can feel it's locked into something, but it pulls through. And it's the sort of thing that you think, you know what, there's something there, but I might well be all right. Feel it bumping on something there, not really sure what it is, now it's locked up again. So we give it a bit of a pull back. It's clear there's something there, it's clear that something is weed. But if we have a look at the lead, it's come back with absolutely nothing on. So that might give us the false impression that the weed isn't too bad because the lead's come through without snagging up. I've managed to pull it through, but just look at it. It's like a torpedo. That'll go through really, really easily. Very narrow. That'll pull back through anything. Let's put the grappler on and see what difference that makes. Out she goes. Stop it. Feel it down. Similar sort of landing, soft landing, but it did land. And then straight away I can feel that's hitting stuff and it's locked up again. And now it's completely locked up. And look at that, the difference is absolutely clear to see. That lead pulled through that without any problem whatsoever. And yet now it's completely solid. Come on. It's coming in. And if ever there was a good indication, because that, trust me, has gone out to exactly the right place and the same place as the last one. And the lead just pulled through the weed. Let me know there was something there, but just pulled through the weed. And yet now, look at this. Beach's Brook is on its way back in. And for those of you that don't know what Beach's Brook is, it's one of the biggest jumps in the Grand National. But look at that, same place. And that's the difference. That's why these things are so important. And if I was to say to you that one of the most important things that I've picked up from all of the years of diving that I've done is that if you do not know what's on the deck underneath you, how on earth can you know what rig to use? And that is a perfect example, because there is nothing that you're going to put into that really you can present effectively and catch carp on. Nothing.
I clipped my rods up to the raised area that Rob had previously found. The idea for this test was to see the difference between how the fish feed in the weed and on the clear area, and to gauge if you can still chuck bags into the weed and expect bites. With this in mind, I spotted up in a line across the bar and into the weed, and my rods would follow suit, with 2 being on the bar and 1 in the weed. My spod mix consisted of corn, pellets and krill boilies, with a generous dose of pure krill liquid. I cast my 3 rods, all with rapid tied PVA bags, out onto the spot. The first rod was my middle. I felt it landed a little short, but I received a decent drop, so for the purpose of this test I left it. The second was my right. It went down perfectly with a good solid drop. Lastly, my left hand rod. This was the one that was going into the weed, just off to the left hand side of the bar. And after feeling no drop at all, I was confident that I was in the right area.
Harry's baiting looked bang on. There was a lovely even scattering all along the bar and into the weed. Looking at the bait in the weed, you can see how the corn and pellets got caught up in it and are suspended at all sorts of different heights. None of the boilies can be seen in the weed, so they must have fallen right through. It's certainly worth thinking about what bait you're going to use if you choose to target weedy areas, because heavier baits like boilies will just get lost. I looked hard in the weed to see if I could find Harry's PVA bag, but it was nowhere to be seen. It would be really interesting to see if he would get a bite on this one. In fact, I could only seem to find his right hand rod, which was perfectly presented. The solid bag offered the necessary protection from the light patchy weed that was dotted over the bar. A straight bottom bait or wafter on a lead clip or a helicopter setup may have been at risk of not being presented properly had it landed over similar weed without adequate protection for the hook point.
Right then, baits in the water. How do you think that went?
I think the rods did pretty much what I wanted them to do, which was my left-hander went in the weed. I felt that on the drop, there was no drop. Yep. That's in weed.
Yep.
The middle rod, I believe, will be short. I felt like it landed short, but it landed okay.
Yep.
So I believe it's presented. My right-hander was absolutely bang on. Now, if I was fishing to a clear spot like that, I'd want every single one to be bang on like the right-hander, felt it crack down. Obviously, I wouldn't chuck one off in the weed, and the one that landed a little bit short, I'd redo it. So they're all like bang, bang, bang. But for the sake of this...
Well, it's great because we've got exactly what we need, which is one, woohoo, and then a middle one, haven't we? And I think, a lot of people would think with a weed, we'll either leave it there or it'll be all right, or actually we don't care. So it'll be a really interesting thing now to find out if you get a bite. And there's fish in the area, so I think you've got a chance of getting a bite. Firstly, which one's going to go? Are they all going to go? Are none going to go? And what's going to happen with a baited spot? So baiting up looked good.
Yeah, so what did the stuff in the weed look like?
The stuff in the weed looked absolutely fantastic because, a lot of the time the picture that we have in our mind's eye is what we see in magazines, which is a flat plan drawing of weed and over there and all your bait in a perfect place. Now the reality of it is there's undertow, there's the odd one that goes off to the left or the right, so there's bait all over the place, and it's actually really good because you've baited the spot, lovely, and then into the weed, lovely. There is the Trev tree. Now Trevs are, we're going to blow a bit of a Team England secret here now, aren't we?
Well, you just have,
Trevs are our code word for
sweet corn.
So we've blown it now. Shouldn't have said that, but look, it's out there. So sweet corn, your sweet corn, as it was fluttering down through the water, it's landed on the crowfoot weed that has arms sticking up, and there's literally just bits of grain of corn all the way down. So that from now on will be known as the Trev tree.
On a Christmas tree.
Exactly that. So that's the Trev tree. There's a few bits and bobs of pellets around everywhere. The boilies, obviously, they sink a little bit further. And this is something to think about when you're baiting up as well, because in weed, light stuff gets caught and heavy stuff sinks through it. So the boilies have more or less all made it to the deck, whereas some of the pellet is up in the water and up in the weed. So that some of the corn's down, some of the corn's up as well. Most of the boilies down on the deck. On the clean stuff, it looks lovely. It looks really, really nice. Looking at where your rig positioning was, one of them is absolutely bang on. The presentation is perfect. It's on a real hard, clean spot. That
should be the right-hander.
Yeah. So if there was going to be a bite, then that's perfect for it.
Yeah.
To be honest, the other two I couldn't find. So.
Right, okay.
One of them, without any shadow of a doubt, is in the weed, because the one that I found was there wasn't a lot of room for it to be on the other side of it in the safe zone, and you've said it's in the weed. And the difficulty I have is the weed is quite thick.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people think we don't care, chuck it in there.
I'm still surprised you couldn't find it, because I am a bit of I do like using solid bags, and I am happy if I see a fish, I'll chuck it out there, and it's just out there and it's in whatever it's in.
And that's all well and good if the weed is up to say a foot or it's bending over a bit. But if you've got 3-4 foot weed and it's like a forest, then it's very, very difficult to see. Now, people say they don't mind, and this is one of the points that I've got to make yet again, that when the fish are swimming to find something, they've got to find it. If they see it, they'll find it. If they smell it, they'll find it. But you imagine flying over the Amazon, and on the floor of the Amazon is something. You're not necessarily going to see it. All right, they've got the sense of smell as well, but they've got to go and dig around and look for it. If there's a clearing, there's something in the clearing, you're going to find it. That's why clear spots work so well. Anyway, back to it. One of them was lost in the weed. The other one, I'm not sure where it was either, to be honest, because I had a look around. And actually what we've got to do is we've got to praise the line now as well, because normally when I can't find something, what I do is I scurry back and I try and follow the line back in, but I couldn't, and that's not a sales thing, that's just I couldn't find it.
No.
So one of them, happy days, looks all right. The baiting up I think is brilliant, because it will give us a real indication of fish coming. Are they feeding on the weed? Are they just feeding on the deck? You know, if nothing comes in, we're not going to learn that much.
Did it look like a lot of bait? Because that was probably 15 to 20 impact spots.
Yeah. It looked enough to stop something and give it a bit of a feed.
Yeah.
And if 2 or 3 fish, or even 4 or 5 fish, you know, if a shoal come in, they'll wipe it out and they'll be gone.
Yeah.
Whereas if a little group came in, I thought it was just about right. It was the right amount for 3 rods on an overnighter. It didn't look too heavy. It looked enough to stop something and keep them in the area. So yeah, it looked pretty good, really.
Well, fingers crossed I get a bite at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's hope it's in the morning in reasonable hours as opposed to the middle of the night. Don't want to get up there.
I see flashes from the strobe lights. I am floating like I'm lost in time.
Well, good morning. I have managed a bite off of the baited spot, and I'm pretty sure this was the one that was bang on it. I felt it down with an absolute crack. Well, yeah, it is the one that was on it, because Hughes told me it was. So kind of the one that we thought would go has gone, but it has currently weeded me solid, which is pretty apt for the feature that we're doing. So at the moment I'm just going to keep steady pressure on it, and that is the sort of first port of call whenever I get a fish weeded, and then the second port of call will be to put the rod down and let the fish swim out. You know, you don't want to be pulling for a break at the moment. This fish is really solid, but it's still on. It's definitely still on. If it had come off, I'd be winding me my rig in like that. It's as simple as that. So yeah, the fish is still on, so I'm going to be patient, see if it starts to move, and if not, I'll put the rod down and see if it will swim out. I think it is getting to that stage now where I'm going to put the rod down, let all the line go slack so there's no tension on the fish, and just hope that it sort of backs itself away, and then if it does start moving, then I can pick up the rod and start getting it moving towards me and hopefully through the weed. So I'm going to do that now. So literally just going to slacken off the line and put it back on the rests, and it really is as simple as that, and just waiting for something to happen. That line is now nice and slack, and we will see if it wants to swim out. So, quick update on proceedings. The fish is still on. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes. Had a little bit of movement about 15 minutes ago. Picked the rod up. Thought I was gaining on it, but it was still just in the weed. So I've left it there. You know, it's been, like I say, it's been an hour and 15 minutes, and a lot of people at this stage would be getting impatient, pulling really hard, thinking, oh yeah, I'll just pull it out. But if you just think, oh, I'll just pull it out, you've got a chance of breaking the line. You know, I've got 20-pound line on, so it is strong, but of course you don't know what's going to be out there in the weed. There could be zebra mussels, etc., etc. So I just think pulling as hard as I can is not the right move for the safety of the fish at this time. It is solid in the weed. If it still hasn't budged in the next hour or so, because at the moment it is literally like an ostrich with its head in the sand, if it doesn't budge, then we'll have enough light to hopefully go out and see what it's doing and how it is stuck in the weed. So yes, I will cross my fingers, because it would be very nice to put a fish in the bank, and we will wait and see. Right, so Hughesy is following the line out to the fish. This is going to be really interesting to see exactly what the fish has done. I certainly have never seen exactly what they do underwater. I've gone out to them with the boat, and often, very often when you get out to them, it's very easy just to lift them up out of the weed. It's always a lot easier than what it seems from the bank. So this will be a really interesting insight into what they do. So I'm just letting him take the line out, and then when he gets there, hopefully he'll be able to free the fish, and I'll be able to get it in.
I followed the line out until I saw the first evidence of where the attached carp had been. You can see where the line has flattened the weed and then become bedded into the tall hedge of weed directly in front of me. This fish was clearly not in this bit of weed, so I attempted to free the line from it. You can see it did take some digging out. All of this from the fish going around the weed, turning a corner, and then the line becoming enveloped by the weed. After tearing through that bit, I followed the line round a bit further, the flattened weed left behind by the carp showing me the way to go. As is the case very often with weeded fish, it seems to be the pivot points that are the problem. The carp can use the weed as a point for the line to arc on, which makes pulling them back through it incredibly difficult. As I ventured forward, the weed in front of me rocked and the line jolted in my hand. I was close and thought it was still buried, but as I began to peel the weed away, all of a sudden I scared the fish into action.
Oh, there we go. I can feel the fish has just kicked off. Well, it must be out now.
And it was. There were a few frantic moments as I desperately tried to get the last of the weed off the line before I got to witness the incredible sight of a lovely mirror carp twisting and turning underwater. I had one last look, brushed its tail with my hand, dropped the line and gave the signal to Harry that the fish was free.
So I don't... Okay, it should be free. Hughesy's just giving me the thumbs up and we're in contact. Yes. Ah. Well, honestly, this has been a long time. Now, I know obviously Hughesy's gone and fetched this fish for me, but it just shows that if you're patient, you don't need to try and rip their heads off from the bank. If you can get a bailiff or get, someone to help you get over the top of them, you can get them out, and there's no point dragging and pulling because the fishery, whatever fishery you're at, they're not going to want you to leave tackle in the fish, and you're not going to want to leave tackle in the fish. So be patient, wait for someone who's available to help you, hope that hook stays in, and you've got a chance. Lovely dark fish, and I've mucked up the first bit of netting. Brilliant. This will be just my luck if it comes off, probably serve me right. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah! Yeah! I'm high-fiving you! Oh, yes! Lovely, dark, scaly mirror. Happy days. Happy days.
With the fish safely in the net and me still out in the lake, I thought now was as good a time as any to go back and check out what Harry's spot looked like. The area was far more clouded than the day before, a sure sign of feeding fish. As I dropped down, it was clear to see that the area had been well fed upon, with most of the top of the bar now clear of bait, except for a few pellets and the odd husk of corn. Bizarrely, I soon found Harry's middle rod, one of the ones that I couldn't find at all the day before. To me, it looked like it had been done. There were no pellets around it anymore. Either they'd been eaten, blown out of the way, or his rig and lead had been picked up and dropped in another position. Looking at the weed on the bar, it was sparser than before and had been rolled away to the sides on the spot, and it looks like a fair bit of bait has been washed to the sides with it. Moving over to the weed, there's still bait suspended in it, albeit not as much. However, it looks to me like they've not fed anywhere near as hard in the weed as they have on the clear spot. I headed back to the bank to discuss my findings with Harry.
Right, so Hughesy, before we look at this footage, just what were your sort of findings when you swam back out over my spot?
Well, coming back in even before I got there, the first thing I noticed was the water was cloudy. So it, absolute indicator, complete giveaway, getting towards it. Yesterday when I went over the top, the gravel spots were glowing, you could see them from miles away. The sunlight's penetrating through the water, it's a real giveaway, it's a homing beacon for me to get in. This time, it was like looking through fog. Something had been in the area, it had clouded the water up.
So do you, the cloud that we're seeing here,
Yep.
How recent do you think that they're feeding? Because it seems quite suspended quite high up.
Yes.
But not like the sort of plumes of cloud.
No, but remember that there's dust everywhere underwater. So like in weed, there will be dust particles all over the weed, and that dust might be algae, it might be silt, it might be all sorts. So if the fish are swimming through the weed, if they're kicking it off the bottom, if they're doing all sorts, it will cloud up. But it doesn't just cloud up on the bottom in smoke clouds, it clouds all the way through the water. The water literally just gets murkier. As soon as I get up to the spot, I can see that something's done something. And that's very wide, but the likelihood is it's fish feeding, but it could be anything.
Yeah.
So something has done something, could be me on a previous pass. But I didn't go anywhere near it. Something had done something, that something is likely to be fish.
Yeah.
When I got down there, immediately the first thing I'm attracted to was the big gravel patch. And yesterday it was like a table with a buffet all over it, and now it was like a table after a wedding when everybody's been through it.
Yeah,
so,
and also part of the tablecloth had been rolled away.
Moved as well.
There's definitely not as much of that rolling candy flossy type weed
exactly. That
on there.
Thick old filamentous algae looks like it's been what I class as turfed. So if you were going to strip it and roll it back and push it to the side, it's been moved over, and it does that, and I've seen it before time and time again. It does that when the fish are in there with the pecks or moving the tail, the water is rolling and swirling, and as it rolls and swirls, it picks that up and it moves it because it's not anchored to anything, and it's just pushed it off to one side. It's not done it with everything, so it's clear that a few fish have been feeding on there, but it's not like a pack of 20 have come in and gone through like locusts.
Yeah.
I would say that is 2, 3, 4 fish maybe coming in a little group, and you can see almost around that weed there's like an arc of food that wasn't wanted or that just got caught up in that mess. Now, if they were really feeding heavily and there was a lot of fish on it, they'd have cleaned that as well, but they haven't. There's enough just to have a good old pick on the top, and when they swim around and moving, then it's pushed away. Now, there was a very interesting point here, and you can see my hand coming into shot picking up a rig.
Yeah.
And it's your PVA bag rig, and it's the one that I couldn't find.
Yeah.
So
because I had the bite on the one you did find.
Yes.
That I thought was mint.
Check the found spot. The one where it was found wasn't there anymore. Clearly, that's the bite. This one confused me a little bit because I looked over that spot. Now, I know that I'm useless at finding things, and my missus is always nagging me about not seeing the car keys that are directly in front of my nose. But I looked over that spot a couple of times, and I didn't see anything at all. Bearing in mind it had a great big bag of pellets with it, and now I've been able to go over and find it with just a single grain of corn. So, wherever that was before, it's moved.
So you're saying I've been done?
You've been done on that. Unquestionably, you've been done on that in some way, shape or form. Did you have any indication through the night?
I had a few beeps, but the wind did pick up in the night and it blew weed onto my line, and I had my alarm set at full sensitivity.
Yeah. So
just a couple of beeps I wasn't really worried about because I thought it would just be the...
And it only happened once?
No, it did. No, it happened a couple of times.
Right. Okay.
But it probably happened once where I had more than one beep.
Right. I would say, putting 2 and 2 together, that was almost certainly getting done on that rig.
Right. Okay. I don't really want to think about that one anymore.
Right.
Did you find the one that was in the weed?
No. No, it's still in the weed.
No, it's still there now.
Still in the weed. You haven't had a bite on it. It's still in the weed.
No, and they'll still be looking for it come the winter.
Yeah. Without any shadow of a doubt. Now, interestingly, the fish had preferred to feed on the clear spot, but they had picked the odd little bit, or alternatively, it had been knocked out of the weed. Let's take the Trev tree as a prime example. You know, there was corn all the way up and down that. It looked like a Christmas tree. It's now looking like a Christmas tree on January the 6th. There's not an awful lot on it. It's ready for the bin.
Do you think that the fish have fed harder on the clean area or in the weed?
Definitely.
Or, yeah? Harder on the clean area?
100%. 110%.
That has surprised me because I would have thought that the fish would have felt more confident to eat the stuff in the weed, and the only reason that I potentially wouldn't have got a bite in the weed was because of my presentation. But they've obviously really just enjoyed eating on that tabletop.
Look, sometimes we look too complicated. Let's look absolutely basic, let's look simple, let's look at convenience again. You've got a load of stuff together on a flat plate, or you've got to go and pick it all off a tree. What are you going to take it from? It's much easier just
They don't have to go to any different level.
No.
They can just stay at one height and suck it up like a hoover.
It's all about the efficiency of being able to eat as much as possible in the easiest way that they possibly can. And ultimately that's what animals want. You know, they want grub.
Yeah.
And they'll go and find it if they have to, but if there's a big pile of it in one place, they'll just sit there and scoff it.
Yeah. So
So
that sort of shows the importance of trying to find a clear spot.
exactly. If you want to test it, get your dog, put a bowl of food in, and then scatter a load of bonios all the way around the kitchen and have a look where it stays the longest.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be straight on a bowl, and that's basically what we've done here. They're on the food, so the clear spot isn't just much better for presentation, isn't just much better for the chances of a successful hookup, because weed gets in the way. You know, they can't find the other one. I couldn't find the other one. Bearing in mind I'm a human, relatively intelligent human being, and I know it's there.
Yeah, moderately.
I still couldn't find it. I know it's there.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't know what it's looking for and doesn't know it's there, how on earth is it going to find it unless it stumbles across it?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I'm glad that it's kind of confirmed my thoughts that unless I'm getting really nice, clean drops, or the drop that I exactly want, then I need to redo it.
Now, this is just backed up a little theory that I have. Is some blokes will turn around and they'll go, all a load of rubbish, I chuck it in the weed and I catch. And the answer is, yes, my friend, you probably do. I bet you don't find a clean spot anywhere. So the only way you can catch is because you've chucked it in the woodwork. And secondly, I bet you don't put much food in. Because the fish, they're looking for food. And if the only food they can find is down a mine, they've got to go and mine for it. But if there's grub on a table, they're going to go there. And that's why the blokes that put grub on a decent table catch significantly more than the blokes that shove it in the woodwork. Period. Discuss, people, discuss.
Leave your comments below.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, come on. Let's hear what audience feedback. What do you guys think? And I'm in no illusion whatsoever that some of you are going to turn around and go, you know what, I chuck it in the weed all the time and I catch all the time. And I would say, yes, I'll agree with that. You probably do, but I bet you catch more if you did it clean on somewhere that they're going to feed harder. Absolutely guarantee it.
I was very pleased to get this in the net, I'll tell you. I think an awful lot of thanks goes to you for this one.
Team effort carp. It was really interesting from our point of view just to see how far it had gone, and I think it's clear what its route was, and it's also quite surprising how far they can go when they want to go.
Yeah, and the thing is, if they go, it was around one big like tree of weed, but it wasn't a really thick bit, was it? Really?
No. It's all about hinge points, isn't it? Once it's gone around one hinge point, it's tricky. Once it's gone around two or three, it's really, really tricky.
And trying to pull that from the bank, I could have pulled until the line broke.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have got it back through there because it'd gone too far and around stuff. And I think there's a key point with that, and I think the key point is that, you know, if you've got a bailiff or a number for a bailiff that can get out and get it out, they don't have to get a wetsuit on. That would have come out really easy with a boat just going above it and pulling the line out. So there's no excuse for leaving tackling carp. Just ring the fishery manager or bailiff if you get one stuck, and just wait. You know, be patient, just wait, and they'll come out just like this one did. And it's been a great result for the feature as well. Just seeing what they've done, how they've done it, and I think we'll leave you now for the minute just with a little look at him, and he can go off again.